Hello everyone, my name's Iman. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to finish up our lecture on spectroscopy, and we've made it to the third and final objective titled Nuclear Magnetic Resonance Spectroscopy, or NMR. Among all of the spectroscopy techniques that we're going to encounter on the MCAT, NMR is the most important. And that's because it gives us detailed information about the structure of organic molecules, and it allows us to piece together how atoms are connected. In particular, Proton NMR allows us to investigate the chemical environments of hydrogen atoms, and it allows us to begin constructing a detailed picture of a molecule's structure. So what is NMR and how does it work? Unlike infrared and ultraviolet spectroscopy, which examine bonds or electron transitions, NMR focuses on the atomic nuclei, specifically nuclei that possess a property called nuclear spin. Nuclear spin, this is a quantum mechanical property that's found in nuclei with an odd number of protons, neutrons, or both. And while the word spin is not literal, we can imagine the nucleus acting like a tiny bar magnet, and it's generating its own magnetic field. When these spinning nuclei are placed in an external magnetic field, they behave in a predictable way. Each nucleus can align with the field, and that results in a lower energy state called the alpha spin state, or it can align against the field, and that results in a higher energy state called the beta spin state. The differences between these two spin states represents an energy gap. If a nucleus absorbs a photon of the right energy, specifically in the radio frequency range, it can flip from the alpha state to the beta state. And this transition is what NMR detects. So by measuring the frequency of energy absorbed during this flip, we can gather information about the magnetic environment of that nucleus. But there's one more important factor here. Electrons around the nucleus also generate tiny magnetic fields of their own. And these induced magnetic fields shield the nucleus to a varying degree depending on the local chemical environment. So as a result, no two hydrogen atoms in a complex molecule experience the magnetic field in exactly the same way. And because of this, they absorb energy at a slightly different frequency. These small but meaningful differences allow us to distinguish unique proton environments within a molecule. And then by analyzing the number of signals, their positions, their intensities, and shapes, we can piece together how atoms are connected. And that makes NMR one of the most informative tools in structural analysis. Now that we understand the basic principles behind NMR, let's take a deeper look at a proton NMR spectrum. An NMR spectrum is a graph that plots chemical shift on the x-axis, measured in parts per million or ppm, and then it has energy absorption on the y-axis. This allows us to compare spectra that's collected on different instruments, regardless of their magnetic field strength. Now, here it's important to note that we use a compound called tetramethylsilane, or TMS, as the calibration standard for chemical shift. TMS is very shielded and it appears upfield in the spectrum, so we define its signal as 0 ppm. All other signals are measured relative to TMS, and they appear at increasing ppm values as the protons become more and more deshielded. The spectrum that you see here is for hydrogen atoms, which is why we call it Proton NMR or HNMR. This is the only type of NMR that we're concerned with for the MCAT. From here, there are 4 main things that we always analyze when we look at an NMR spectrum, and we're going to explore each of these in more details shortly. But here's an overview of what to pay attention to. First, we have the number of signals. Each unique group of protons in a molecule shows up as a separate signal. So that means every set of chemically non-equivalent protons will have its own distinct peak. For now, we're just going to focus on chemical equivalence, so don't worry to the terms you see here. The key takeaway is that the number of peaks tells us how many unique proton environments exist in the molecule. Second, we want to pay attention to the location of the signals along the x-axis. So again, this x-axis is labeled in parts per million or ppm, and it tells us how shielded or deshielded each proton is. Protons near electronegative atoms or within pi systems experience deshielding, which means they absorb further downfield, so higher ppm values. Shielded protons, which are more surrounded by electron density, they appear upfield, so the ppm value for that is going to be closer to 0. The third thing we want to pay attention to is the area under each signal. This is called integration, and it tells us the relative number of protons that give rise to each signal. In other words, if one peak has twice the area of another, that means it corresponds to twice as many protons. And this information helps us determine how many hydrogens are in each unique environment. Finally, we need to pay attention to the shape of the signals. So this refers to something called splitting or multiplicity, which results from interactions between neighboring protons. These interactions cause the peaks to split into smaller patterns like doublets, triplets, or quartets, and they help us figure out how many neighboring protons are adjacent to a given proton group. And this concept is known as coupling, and it is a really powerful tool for working out molecular connectivity. So in the pages that follow, we're going to go through each of these categories one at a time, starting with how to count the number of signals and recognize chemically equivalent hydrogen atoms. Again, the number of signals tells us how many types of proton environments are present. In NMR, hydrogen atoms that are in identical electronic environments will all show up as one signal. So that means if they're surrounded by the same atoms in the same way, then they are in identical electronic environments. These are called chemically equivalent protons. On the other hand, if two sets of protons are in different environments, then they're going to absorb at different frequencies and essentially give separate peaks. So for example, if we look at this molecule that's shown here, there are 2 distinct types of hydrogen atoms labeled HA and HB. The HA proton is attached to a carbon that's bonded to 2 chlorine atoms and an oxygen, and that gives it a unique electronic environment. The HB hydrogens, there are 3 of them. They are all attached to a different carbon that's bonded to hydrogens and an oxygen. Since all 3 HB hydrogens share the same bonding environment, they are chemically equivalent to each other, and together they produce one signal. So taking a step back, because the environments of HA and HB are different from one another, then the spectrum will show two distinct signals. So in other words, each unique set of chemically equivalent protons give rise to one NMR signal. The next thing we want to discuss is the location of each signal, because that reveals how shielded or deshielded each proton is. Remember that the x-axis is measured in parts per million, or ppm, and it increases from right to left. Protons that are more shielded, meaning they are surrounded by lots of electron density, they appear upfield, so closer to 0 ppm. But protons that are deshielded, because they are near electronegative atoms or pi systems, they're going to appear downfield, so at higher ppm values. Let's take a look at the table right here that shows the typical chemical shift ranges for different types of protons. Methyl groups usually appear around 0.9 ppm. Methylene groups are around 1.2 ppm, and methine is going to show up near 1.7 ppm. If a proton is next to a double bond but not directly on it, like an allylic hydrogen, it appears around 2 ppm. Then protons that are attached to triple bonds and aromatic methyl protons, they both show up near 2.5 ppm. Moving into more deshielded regions, we will find alkyl halide protons. They appear somewhere between 2 to 4 ppm. Alcohol protons are usually between 2 to 5 ppm, though they can vary depending on hydrogen bonding. Vinyl protons, which are directly on a carbon-carbon double bond, they fall in the 4.5 to 6.5 ppm range. And aromatic protons that are found on benzene rings, they show up between 6.5 to 8 ppm. In the highly deshielded regions, we will find aldehyde protons, they appear around 10 ppm. And carboxylic acid protons are even further downfield, around 12 ppm, because they are both next to a carbonyl and they're involved in hydrogen bonding. So when you see a peak in the spectrum, its position along the ppm scale gives you important clues about what type of hydrogen you're looking at. Combined with the number of signals, this helps you begin building the structure of the molecule. The third thing we want to talk about now is the area under the signals, which is proportional to the number of protons. In NMR, the size or area of a peak doesn't directly tell us the absolute number of protons, but it tells us the ratio between different proton groups. For example, if one peak has 3 times the area of another, it likely represents 3 times as many equivalent protons. So in the spectrum that's shown here, signal B is noticeably larger than signal A. That matches what we would expect based on the molecule shown. The HB protons consist of 3 equivalent hydrogens, while the HA position contains just 1 hydrogen. So the integration reflects a 1 to 3 ratio, and that helps us connect each peak to the correct part of the molecule. Integration is especially helpful when we're piecing together a structure because it lets us estimate how many hydrogens are associated with each chemical environment. Last, the shape of the signals helps us determine how many neighboring protons are nearby. When we look at the shape of the signal, we're specifically looking at whether the signal appears as a singlet, a doublet, a triplet, or more. And this feature is called splitting or multiplicity. And it happens because of a phenomenon called coupling. Coupling occurs when protons on one carbon are close enough to interact with protons on a neighboring carbon. These interactions cause the NMR signal to split into smaller peaks. The pattern and the number of those peaks follow a simple rule called the N plus 1 rule, where N is the number of equivalent neighboring protons. So for example, if a proton has 2 neighboring hydrogens, its signal will be 2 plus 1, which is equal to 3 peaks. The signal will be split into 3 peaks, which we call a triplet. This splitting helps reveal how atoms are connected in a molecule. So in our example structure shown here, the HA proton is adjacent to 3 HB protons. So it's going to appear as a 3 plus 1 signal, so a 4-peak signal that we call a quartet. As for the HB protons, they are adjacent to just 1 neighboring hydrogen. So that's going to be 1 plus 1. The peak will split into 2, and it will appear as a doublet. This splitting pattern tells us not just about the number of neighbors, but also about which groups are connected to each other in the structure. Before we move on, it's important to mention that this is a simplified overview of Proton NMR that's really just focused on the concepts most relevant for the MCAT. If you're interested in diving deeper into things like coupling constants, splitting, or interpreting more challenging spectra, I've created a dedicated NMR video in my Organic Chemistry 2 playlist on YouTube, where we go into a lot more detail. I also want to note here that a lot of these concepts are going to make a lot more sense in the problem set video that's going to follow. So make sure you watch that problem set where we put into effect a lot of these concepts. But with that, we have now completed this lecture. I hope that it has been helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns down below. Other than that, good luck, happy studying, and have a beautiful, beautiful day, future doctors.